Nicole, just looking at the importance of restaurant spending, I guess the statistic was 2014 was when you really saw an inflection point. Teens started spending more on food than they were on clothes, and there's been no looking back, right?
Right. What they're really spending more on is experiences over things. So to your point, 23% of mindshare goes to restaurants. This is 200 basis points higher than what is spent on clothing in terms of teen mindshare.
Who does the best when it comes to restaurants? Who comes out on top?
There's a couple standouts. You know, we really like Chipotle as a stock, and this is a decent proxy of their, recovery efforts and the improvement they're making there. So they're solidly in the top 3 in their cuisine category. They are number 1. Starbucks, on the other hand, they are the only public company with double-digit mind share. And then if you just step back and look broadly overall, Chick-fil-A is absolutely eclipsing the number 1, 2, and 3 prior seeds, essentially, and keeping that number 1 spot.
And in terms of what you learned in this survey, did it change your mind about any of your theses on any of these stocks, or was this something that kind of backed up what you'd already thought?
You know, it absolutely shows a couple of things, that teens like limited service, that dominates. We have other surveys, however, as they as they become young adults and look at the millennials and young adults today, that does flip to full service or casual dining. So that's one important piece to keep in mind. The other, experiences over things, and you look at where that comp is gravitating towards a Chick-fil-A or a Starbucks or even Chipotle to some degree. They're eating in, which is an interesting trend. So sitting down and socializing, and then also beverage. There's a lot of beverage consumption that comes with those mindshare numbers and the associated comps at those companies.
Like sodas?
Actually, it's not necessarily soda. It's much broader than that. So Starbucks is a great proxy of being not just hot coffee, but cold, being not just coffee and caffeine, but non-caffeine, and not dairy, but non-dairy drinks. And so when you look at Chick-fil-A, that's something that they pressed hard on in the last 12 to 18 months, and where they gained a lot of mind share. Clearly in their main chicken category, I mean, there's also a lot of preference going on in chicken right now as a category, but they also solidly built up their beverage platform.
Does the decline of the mall change, or has it changed over the last 5 or 10 years as you've been doing this survey? I mean, I think of Chick-fil-A as being a mall-based retailer, but I guess they have a lot of freestanding stores too. Have you seen those changes with teens not going to the mall as much have an impact on what you see in terms of the survey?
Absolutely. I think that's when that preference had that inflection point back in 2014, as you mentioned. That was the trough of mall traffic, and that became the peak and the growing trend for restaurants. And this is where teens socialize. So it's really important that restaurant brands are getting them not just on the food profile, but the convenience and the gathering places and intersecting where they live. So mall being on the mall pad and in the mall in terms of food is still a positive. And then being an anchor, once we start to drill down into the full service category, those anchor places like an Olive Garden for Darden, they always show up as a number 1 as well.